And I don't see myself picking sides. I don't see myself picking right and left or this or I just see myself trying to be like, God, what do you want? What is your way?
Yeah, that's a big one here. You know, I don't think the rules are as heavy as they are over there. We don't need to show proof of whether we're vaccinated or unvaccinated. I do think we're under great pressure to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Receiving text messages pretty much every day and emails, and you know, every time you look on Facebook, it's like, have you had your COVID jab and stuff like that. I'm personally double jabbed because I've got certain illnesses that I need to thing. And I have had COVID. I had it quite bad. I was really quite ill, but I feel that I would have been a lot iller had I not been vaccinated. Whether I'll go for my third jab, I don't know. But you know, I've had two. But COVID is kind of, our government isn't the greatest government, and there's a lot of hypocrisy and there's a lot of saying things that are not happening. And as a country, we are, you know, we're not going to be forced to wear masks soon. We're not even going to be forced to isolate soon, even if we have got COVID. And I know it's scary times for some people. And, you know, I pray into that. It's affecting my church greatly. Pretty much all the leaders are now down with COVID. But, you know, by the grace of God, they're all sort of recovering and getting back to normal. I think it's going to be, COVID is going to be a big part of life for many years to come. I think it's just something we're going to have to get used to. I understand you know, you've got kids. You're a mother as well. Is it one that is of special needs? What's that like?
Yeah, my 14-year-old. I mean, technically, my 3-year-old has also been diagnosed with autism, but I'm kind of not. It's not that I'm sticking my head in the sand. I just don't see it. I just don't see it because I see my older one and I see the big difference. They were both born prematurely. My older one was almost 4 months early. So that caused a lot of issues. My second one, I got so sick. It was an emergency C-section 10 weeks early. They had to take him out of me because I was going to die. I had put on 100 pounds within a few months, and I had such edema. I had pre-eclampsia. And so I got to the point where my organs were shutting down. My liver and kidneys weren't functioning. I was going into heart failure. My lungs were filled with liquid. I couldn't breathe. They thought I was going to have a stroke. It was like, when they saw that, they told me it was the worst case of preeclampsia my doctor had ever seen. And he's been doing this for 30 years. They were actually really surprised they didn't lose me. And I was in, the cardiopulmonary unit. So it was both times that I gave birth was pretty traumatic. The first time more, I think, for my son, and the second time more for me. But it was certainly a challenge raising a special needs child. He's 14 now. We've come into a good place and a rhythm, and the expectations are different. But, when he was first diagnosed, it was a lot of, I don't know if I want to use the word mourning, but it kind of fits. Mourning for what he'll never become, mourning for the things he'll never do, thinking about the rite of passages he'll never have. Because initially, the doctors were telling me he would never walk or talk. So you're thinking about he's never going to be a dad. He's never going to give me grandchildren. He's never going to go to college. He's never going to play football. He's never, all this, when you find out you're pregnant or you're having a baby, you're just flooded with all these, like, what is their life going to be like? How is this, when it shifts to, he's never going to be able to do any of those things. Or, your mind is really good at playing worst case scenarios. And then you're thinking, I'm going to have to take care of this child for the rest of my life. They may never, and so it really did a number on me mentally for a number of years. And I was angry with God for a while. And I was even resentful towards this child who had nothing to do with it, had nothing to do with it. And it took a long time for me to, like 4.5 years, for me to come to terms with being okay with who he was and what my life was going to be like. And yeah, it was difficult. And it's interesting because one time I was sharing about some of the difficulties on Facebook many years ago, and this woman got so angry that I was sharing the difficulties, because she was like, how dare you say that raising a special needs child is a challenge? You should be so joyful and grateful, and it's a blessing, and how come you can't say? And I was thinking to myself, boy, I felt really bad for expressing that I wasn't always joyful and grateful for this gift God's given me. So I stopped talking about it for a long time, and I still don't really talk about it all that much. I'm being more and more open, but like some people, their whole life is based around their special needs child. They have their whole social media pages, mom of a fill in the blank child, wheelchair bound, paraplegic, cerebral palsy, autistic child. Like their whole identity becomes tied up in a diagnosis. And I thought, I don't ever want that to be my thing. I don't ever want me to be like, oh, I'm the mom of the special needs child. It's just like, then he's having I don't want him to have these labels. He didn't even know he was special needs till he was, I would say, at least 8 or 9, maybe 10. I just never brought it up. We never talked about it. We just did life the way you do life normally. And I was not the one that'd be like, oh, honey, you can't do that because, there's certain things where I had to have him be careful because he does have cerebral palsy, and he does fall down a lot and wears leg braces and sometimes uses a walker and a wheelchair. But I wasn't going to be the one to put limitations on him. And I feel like that sometimes I see parents do that. They try to put their kid in a bubble so they think they're protecting them, but then they never get to experience the ups and the downs of life. So it's been a challenge, but it's only made me better.
Yeah, I can understand that. I have kids that really struggle with anger issues sometimes and behavior, and it gets difficult, and I don't always feel blessed. I know that the life that I have is a blessing, because I didn't always have this life. And I've had people tell me I should feel it's a blessing. It doesn't always feel a blessing. Yeah. It's hard. Right. It's very hard at times dealing with it, and I don't always deal with it the best way that I can. And I sometimes shout and I stamp my feet and I do the angry dad, but it could be a lot worse for me. Right. So
yeah, there's one, counting your blessings is one thing, but you don't always feel like you're blessed. You don't always feel the joy. And I think it's okay, to not to have different emotions. God gave us our emotions. We have to be at a place where we can have the balance, though, of not letting our emotions run us. But if we keep suppressing them and pushing them down, it's like that beach ball that you push it underwater, and the further you push it down, the more it springs up and the higher it goes. So it's okay to feel like, oh, this is hard. But yeah, to have that balance of counting your blessings, but yeah, this is coming with it. And I'm unsure, I'm angry, I'm tired, I'm sleep deprived. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if he'll get better. I don't know if my prayers will be answered. There's a lot of uncertainties, but trusting that God's still holding you in his hands and the situation is going to work out has made all the difference.
Yeah, it does. I have trust in God. I don't always exercise that trust. I'm not the best at handing over. I know they say surrender to win. That's not always easy, because A, I'm British, and B, I'm Northern, and C, I'm stubborn. So it's I do need to give over to God a little bit more. I think my life might be a little bit easier if I did. Yeah. Can you tell me about Dhar Mann? You work a lot with Dhar Mann. What's that like?
It's a lot of fun. So for those who don't know, that's they make small little short films that are kind of morality pieces, or how to treat each other, how to judge a book by its cover. And I think he's made over 500 videos now, maybe close to 600. Who knows? I've been in over 100 of them, which so far is more than any other actor. It's fun. It's a beautiful growth. And to be able to be in films that you can show your kids, because there's a lot of I've been in that I'm like, you can never watch this film. You could never see this film. You see mommy screaming at zombies and chopping their heads off and swearing, and that never needs to be part of your life. It's nice to be able to, do something like that you can. And, I think more now than ever, probably for the last 10 years, it's really been on my mind. What legacy am I leaving? And I'm happy to say, being part of the Dhar Mann episodes and that series, it's like I can go, this is something that is making a difference in the world. I see it from, the messages I get every day on social media about how people really enjoy these episodes and how much it's changed them or made a difference or stopped them from hurting themselves. Or, it's nice to be part of something that doesn't just have entertainment value. Yes, it would be really super fun to be in a $100 million movie where things are exploding and there's green screen and I have a slow motion running sequence, that would be super fun. But I can say, these little videos that some people might think are cheesy or cringe or whatever, they're actually making a difference in people's lives. People are changing, they're accepting themselves, they're accepting others, they're doing things differently because of this. I couldn't say that for a lot of the bigger budget things I've been in. It hasn't been life-changing. So, Dhar Mann has this slogan, we're not just telling stories, we're changing lives. And may sound corny, but it is true. It's true. And so, I can enjoy it and embrace it. And I've had people in Hollywood judge me because, what are you doing those little things for? You're not like a Hollywood actress anymore. You've like sunk to this level where you're doing little after school specials. People can be very judgmental, but I don't know. I'm enjoying the ride, and I like it, and I like the difference it's making. And I feel like people care too much about prestige or being seen as being in the in crowd. So to some people in Hollywood, I might be, they think that maybe I have lowered my standards, but it's just so silly because you could be in an awful like a movie with a terrible message, full of stars, full of, there's some very popular movies that are so sending the wrong messages, that, you know, what am I leaving behind? That's what it's about, the legacy I'm leaving behind. So I'm enjoying it. I don't know why I went into that whole spiel about, but people do, the Hollywood snobs do see you differently. Like, what are you doing now? And I've gotten messages from them like, what happened to you? You're so talented. Like, why would you be doing this? So, people are always going to be critics.
Of course, of course. I mean, I became aware of you, you and you work with Dhar Mann and stuff through my children. They, every Saturday morning, guaranteed, they'll sit there on the TV and it'll be YouTube and it'll be just Dhar Mann, one after each other. They know that I'm interviewing you, and they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, this is the only interview that I've ever done, I think, that my kids have raised an eyebrow at. It's kind of given me a little bit of credibility, which is good with them, which is great. I did want to, I am, I know that we haven't got a lot of time left, but I did want to talk to you about one of the Dhar Mann films that you did that greatly affected me. And it's The Girl Finds Out She's Adopted film. And I saw it. It came up. I saw it, and I watched the trailer, and I had thought, I don't know if I can watch this. I was told on my 8th birthday by my parents that that I was adopted, and that for me set me on a life journey of trauma. That was my first trauma, and that for me then set me on a darker road, which took a long time to come away from. But I watched it anyway, and I identified a lot with it. I found my real family. I have a great relationship with them. Didn't always. Some of that was detriment to me losing communication with the family that brought me up. I am now back in communication with them, but that was hard for them. I admit, and it was hard for me. It must have been hard for everybody, but that really affected me on a deep level, because for me, adoption was my first. It was the first time that I felt like I wasn't wanted. I know I was loved, but I wasn't wanted by someone, and that then I don't know, I guess it set me up for just trauma after trauma. It was kind of like bowling of trauma. It was just trauma after trauma after trauma, and that's the first trauma that I remember. It might have been ones before, but that was the first thing that really sort of affected me. And I wondered if you making that, if it affected you in any way, because it is a tough subject to broach. And I know that the kids, like the young girl, who's a great actress, by the way.
Yeah, she.
She played it really well. But you could see the pain, and did that affect you in any way?
It was such a great piece, and I was honored that they considered me for that role. I know many people who are adopted and felt the same thing, that they weren't wanted. And I have one friend in particular that because of that, it set her life constantly in bad relationships with men because she was always trying to get the man who didn't want her, always doing everything she could to bend over backwards to, if she could get someone who didn't want her to want her, then she would be something. So doing that role, I was, I'm pulling from several people I know that have the story of, how do I fill that hole? How do I come to terms with the people who gave birth to me, not wanting me? And I wish kids would get, like, their parents would get them counselors when they're going to tell them that kind of information. So you have someone to talk through it, to walk you through it, because as a child, you don't have the wherewithal to make sense. And you're going to constantly be saying, what did I do? Why am I not good enough? Why did they not want me? And you don't realize, as a child, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you or your worthiness. It's something going on with them. So, working with that great cast, Colin and Sophia, top-notch actors, they could easily be Oscar winners one day. They're just, it was a real electric environment, but shooting that was difficult at times. And, the little girl actor, Sophia, her mom is on set, and her mom had to leave. She couldn't even, it was so traumatic for her to see her daughter go there emotionally. And it was, shooting things like that, it's sensitive. It brings up a lot of emotions. It brings up a lot of past trauma for people. I'm in a place in my life now where I like to question more things before I allow myself to go somewhere emotionally. I'm always talking to my coaching clients and people who come to my YouTube channel where I make inspirational videos about raising your level of emotional intelligence and not letting your emotions whip you back and forth. So whenever I see myself going to a place of despair or feeling not worthy, not wanted, whatever, I have to stop myself in my tracks and say, okay, why am I feeling this way? What is causing me to feel that? And a lot of times we ask ourselves the wrong questions. Like, you maybe asked yourself why they didn't want you. And we don't know that we're asking ourselves the wrong questions. It's like when we do something silly and we mess something up, we say, gosh, why am I so stupid? Why can't I do anything right? Well, the moment you start asking those questions, your brain and the devil are really good at coming up with all these reasons why you're not good enough, why you're so stupid. So we have to, instead, in those situations, say, gosh, well, that didn't turn out. What could I have done differently? What could I have done differently so this wouldn't turn out this way? And then your brain's going to start coming up with the correct answers. Oh, you could have done this. And when we feel some emotional trauma, why didn't they want me? And instead we turn it around and ask different questions like, I wonder what they were going through where they felt like they couldn't take care of me. I wonder what kind of trouble or turmoil they had going on, and all of that. It takes the emotions, it takes all of the sting out of it. We have these trying times, and if someone is a victim of violence or, somebody hurting them or whatever, it's easy to wallow in that pain of why me, and not even consider for a moment, gosh, that person I don't know what kind of trauma they've been through where they felt like they inflict me. And even getting to the point where, yeah, you have to get healed from it, but even getting to the point where I gotta pray for that person so they don't keep doing that to other people. And it's I think we get to a bad place in life when we put everything on us and we don't stop to turn around and question why did this happen, not why me, what could I have done differently. And I think that has helped me not live in that place of emotion and sadness and being a victim. It's turned me into a competent survivor and not a victim of circumstances. So giving yourself the power back. I don't know if this is kind of a roundabout way to answer that question, but I feel like so much was tied into that. And I do think it greatly affected the people on set, even the people behind the camera watching, Sophia pour her heart out in the search. And I do think that film, Girl Finds Out She's Adopted, even affects people who aren't adopted, because there's always something you're searching for. There's always that feeling, that need to fit in, even if you know who your parents are. Where do I fit? Where do I belong? What tribe? What group of people? What should I do with my life? Where do I belong? So I thought it was really potent and powerful.
Yeah. I must admit it affected me for longer than I probably like to admit, really, because I could identify with a lot of that pain, but I could also see it. I've got stepchildren, and I know how difficult it is being a step parent and them not being yours, and despite wanting them to be.
Yeah.
And that opens up a whole can of worms. I think as as kind of as an empath, being able to feel things on a deeper level, it's a blessing and a curse. I wasn't always able to feel that way. And then God turned my heart tender. He took this man that wasn't a very nice man, and he took this man that society said was no good, and turned him into something new. And I know a little bit about my journey, and it was like, he's led me on this path of discovery. And I like a lot of what you've said tonight, because it comes down to identity, and that's something I'm working on now. I'm looking at who we are as people, who we are as parents, and who we are as children of God, and what is the sort of biblical truth about adoption and identity. And I know that we're prince and princesses of heaven. I know this. I didn't always. Yeah. I'm training in theology at my church, and because I'm doing that, I'm able to find out more about my identity. My growth was stunted for various reasons, and I didn't start to learn who I really was until I was 38 years old. I'm now coming up to 45, and it's been a journey. It's been difficult. It still is difficult to a certain thing, but it's all a learning curve. It's all an education.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely great. I love doing it, because God's got a lot in store for us. So what's he got in store for you? What's next for you?
Well, this year I'm going to be releasing an online course called You Are Worthy. And it's something having to do with self-worth that really, I've got 3 books, but it really stemmed out of the book that you were referencing, and about our worthiness as found through God and our identity with him. So it's really going to help a lot of people with their confidence of being able to walk into any room and feeling like you fit and you belong because you know who you are, because you know whose you are. And, you know, I've got a level 1 and a level 2 with 12 video lessons, and it's going through, you know, all the stuff from the exterior to the interior, being sure of who you are, making the best of what God's given you, knowing you were made on purpose for a purpose, that you are God's favorite creation, that fixing the outside won't help an inside problem. You know, just digging deep down into the layers where you can come out feeling confident in who you are and being able to, you know, discover your worth, know your value, and become who you were meant to be. So you have the courage and the confidence to go after your dream. So that's the big thing for me this year. I've been working on it. I started writing it in 2018 and 2019. I filmed in 2020 and 2021 and been editing it for over a year. So it's a long process. It's like making a feature film. It was like full feature length script. You know, I've got hours and hours of content. I've got so much that I want to share. So that's my big thing, is the You Are Worthy course. And for all your guests, I want to give everybody a copy of this for free. You can download this book, which is my memoir of how I went from self-hate to self-love, by just going to poeticprescriptions.com/free book. poeticprescriptions.com/free book. Maybe you can put that in the comment.
I will link it.
Yeah. So that, to me, that's the big thing for me this year. I'm going to continue to work on Dhar Mann. There's other films I'm working on not related to that. Festivals coming up. I've won a couple acting awards this last year. I'm working on a memoir about my 14-year-old and the time we spent 118 days in the neonatal intensive care unit, and what that was like for me, and the PTSD I got from that whole situation of him being on the brink of death. And, you know, I've got my hands in a lot of little things, other films I'm producing and working on. But for me, that's the big one. It's because it's the one that's going to leave the biggest mark, I think, to heal people from the pain of not feeling like they're enough and finally realizing they have everything it takes to succeed in life.
Yeah, that's brilliant. We need more of that. You know, we need more people to step up and create more content like that. That is stuff that I aim to create myself one day soon. You know, I love when people take power over their lives, and they, you know, I always say, if you can teach, teach. If you can't teach, teach, because it is a gift. It is,
Yeah.
if you've lived a certain life and you've gone through things that have been profound in so many ways, I think it is not just a blessing and an honor, but I think it is a duty to be able to speak out and give a voice to those that need it, and be that voice for those that need it if they don't have the ability to do that. So I love it. I love anything to do with recovery, anything to do with you know, building self and you know, identity. I will link that in with this, and I'll put it across all the platforms, and it'll be on jwgreg.wordpress.com as well.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll link it all, and we'll try and get you some students. I think that would be great. I'd love to get you on for a part 2 a few months down the line. I've really enjoyed talking to you. You know, I know you're very busy.
Yes. Just saying, I gotta hop to
yeah.
my next appointment.
Yeah. So I you know, I respect that, and I'll let you go in a second. I'm just gonna wrap up like I usually do. We'll have a quick debrief, and then I'll let you go on about your day, if that's all right.
Okay.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, as always. I see that there are a few comments that I will look at and I will reply to in a little while. I love it that I have followers that like to get involved in, when I'm doing these live. I'm so blessed and so thankful for the life that I have and the ability to be able to do this, and you guys keep me going. So I'm going to say thank you, guys, and I shall see you again next week. Cheers, guys.
Hey there, it is Katherine Norland. I hope you enjoyed that video. And if you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you guys think that this video would bless somebody else or if they need to hear it, please hit the share button. And there's a little bell button too, where you can be notified whenever I have a video that comes out so you don't miss a thing. I appreciate you guys. Remember, always live true, love hard, shine bright, and I will see you in the next video.